Hey all you wonderful Power Appers, it's Barry here from Power Apps Academy. Great to be back with you. I've been off for a while, had a bit of a family emergency, so I haven't been on air. And today I thought we would have more of an informal chat about Power Apps rather than a technical session. Get back into the technical session soon, but today I thought just to ease back in, let's have a chat about how we can use Power Apps because you come across it, you go, wow, that's pretty cool. You start dabbling a little bit with it, but then you start thinking, how can I actually use this? So I'll give you some examples of how I've used it and seen others use it, and give you some tips, and then we can just maybe chat through some of the capabilities and advantages and disadvantages. Nothing prepared, just more of an informal discussion. So before we hop into that, just a reminder: our partner is PowerAppify.com. Loads of business templates for Power Apps and developers that can help you with your own Power Apps projects. If you get stuck or if you need assistance or training, hop over there, and those guys will be able to assist. So back on to our discussion. Um, so I'll tell you a little bit of how I got into Power Apps. I've always been in information technology and always reviewing processes that we have, and there's loads of inefficiencies in IT. Lots of manual processes, lots of spreadsheets. I'm sure you've all come across lots of questionnaires and Word documents and sending emails and trying to find the same data over and over again. These are all manual and inefficient tasks. And within business, we want to automate and become efficient as possible and become a data-driven business, not a paper-driven business or an Excel spreadsheet. Although that is data, it's not really in a format that we can consume from and report on easily. Okay, there are ways around it, but again, there's easier ways to collate data into a standard format, and then once we've got that data, then it's easy to report on, right? So and Power Apps really makes that easy. So other options that we have, we might be able to go to our own development team if we're lucky to have one, but we all know that their backlog is really huge, and to get anything onto get developed by an internal development team has to be very high on the priority list, and IT processes is probably not high at all on there. So very seldom do we get to use that. But we also have other products, so some SaaS products. But these can be additional costs, license costs can be expensive, right? And then we also put in our data with a third party. And then the third option is, hey, there's a wonderful Microsoft platform with all this capability built in and improving all the time with AI and all that kind of stuff. So why don't we build it, right? There's a little bit of a learning curve, I'll give you that. There is a learning curve depending on what background you come from, but it's not huge, right? It just takes a bit of effort up front, a bit of dedication, and once you've got over that initial hump to get familiar with how Power Apps works, you just keep building your experience, and before you know it, you'll be developing some impressive apps, and earning kudos within the business. So I thought today we'll talk a little bit about what apps you should be looking at. Now I know Microsoft provides some app templates, and I've had a look at them myself, but they can be a little bit confusing, a little bit complicated for starters to try and customize, right? So I like to keep it simple. Start with the bare minimum and then build on it. Build on it in a way that you understand how to build the apps. There's loads of courses. I've done a whole range on beginners courses and intro into Power Apps. It helps you learn the basics around how the Power Apps Studio. You need to know that. Data sources, how to connect data sources, how to connect in things like SharePoint. Then you've got galleries and forms, how to use those. So those are the key ones. And then there's obviously a lot of other functions that you use within there, but you just learn them as you progress. Okay, so what kind of apps do we use here. So like a really simple one that you could look at developing to get to familiar yourself with Power Apps is a request form, like a order, like a ticketing system. Really easy, right? So you just fire up Power Apps, open up a form, throw in a few text fields in there, some drop down boxes. Let's say you have a drop down box with team names. Now you can either fill it in manually, but obviously the great thing with Power Apps, we want to automate and make it as dynamic as possible. So there's functions we can call with the built-in connectors that can get you a list of departments and groups and all this kind of thing. So you just connect these up, assign them to your drop down boxes. Now, I'm not going to go into detail on how to do it. There's other videos that cover that off. And if you do want me to cover any of that off, fire it up in the comments below and I can look at making some videos. But also smash up those likes if you're getting some value out of this video. It really does help promote our channel, and do subscribe. Hit up the subscribe button over there. Well, that won't work, but if you hit the subscribe and the notification down below, we'd really appreciate it. Okay, so so back to this initial form. So you can fill in details about a ticket or problem you want to log, and the thing about capturing data is you want to be able to classify data so that you can group it and filter it and all that kind of stuff. So let's say you're capturing one about issues. You might have, is it a network issue, is it a desktop issue, is it a server issue, or whatever, cloud issue, anything. So however you want to group the data, make sure you capture all that in. And when people select from a drop down box, they select it in a standard naming, so you can easily group on it. There's not going to be spelling mistakes, that kind of thing. So think about that when you creating this. The ultimate goal is capturing data and automating processes. So let's say you capture all the data, hit on the send button, that fires off an email to say you've got a ticketing system such as Jira that will automatically log that data within Jira. Now you can also set up connectors to Jira where when the send button, it automatically logs it into Jira, into all the correct fields in Jira. So there's different ways of doing that. The easiest one is just to hit the email, and then that just logs it as the whole ticket will be in the subject. But if you want to map fields to specific fields in Jira, that's possible too, just with the connector. Some of them are paid, some of them are free. You can just look in the marketplace to see what's available. You can also create your own API connectors. That's a little bit more advanced, but whatever is possible. So there's a lot possible, and there's a lot you can do. Okay, so that's a really easy one to do. Few fields, hit the send button, and you capture that data. There's different options where you can store the data. I like to use SharePoint lists because they're free, but there's more enterprise ready options such as Dataverse or SQL Server, and these are often extra cost, but depending on what you want for your business, you make that choice, and then you can connect it to, say, Dataverse, which is a great cloud data storage system, and plug it all in there. And then once all your data is in the database, you can report on it. Power BI, great, right? You can create fancy dashboards, and one of the advantages of capturing this data. Let's say you've captured a whole lot of tickets, right? Just it could be any data. Actually, I prefer, rather than tickets, let's say you were capturing HR data, holiday. Let's say you captured holiday requests, and you had an automated flow. The great thing about Power Apps, you can build in approvals. So let's say someone's requested a holiday that's gone through the manager, it's been approved. Their holiday's coming up. You can have a flow in the background which currently checks all the data in the table, and it says when there is someone coming up for a holiday, like let's say 2 days before, it can look them up and send them an automated email and say, oh, you've got a holiday coming up in 2 days. Have you done X, Y, and Z? Have you updated your calendar and all this kind of thing? Just automatically prompt people, and there's all sorts of possibilities with that, right? So once you've got the data, you've got loads of other automations that you can do on top of that data, and dashboards and reporting. And this is the kind of stuff that's really going to make you look like a hero at work. So do have a think about What are the processes that you have at work? Are they efficient? Are they data based? Are you collecting data? And if you are collecting data, what's the value in that data, and how can you exploit that value and deliver it to the business using Power Apps, Flow, all this kind of stuff that we have built into this great Microsoft platform that we have available to many of us. So that's how you should be thinking about this. And if you get stuck, there's loads of options. Watch videos, like the ones I make, and there's lots of other YouTubers and other sources of data. Microsoft forums are great to get advice and help. There's Facebook groups. There's all sorts of things where you can get help, and that's how you learn. You come up against challenges, and you reach out to the community. You watch videos, and there's lots of different ways of doing things as well. There's no one way to do something in Power Apps. There's lots of different ways of doing things, right? So there's no right way. Do it the way that you're comfortable with, and then you can improve over time. But do challenge yourself, when you get stuck. And as I said before, there's like services from powerappify.com. Those guys have got specialist developers. If you get stuck, you can get one of their help for an hour, right, to talk you through something, and then you've learned how to do it. So definitely worth using that service if you don't want to spend too much time. If you find you're getting bogged down trying to to resolve complex issues. Right. So what other ideas? Okay. So we've talked about ticketing systems. We've talked about holiday request apps. HR forms. Oh, there's so much opportunity, right? You get these big HR products, that deal with stuff from recruitment and holiday requests and sickness requests and new starters, leavers, all this kind of thing, right? These are all great things to use Power Apps for, and they're relatively easy to implement, and you can really customize them to how you want to use it within your business. And you've got all your own approval flows in there. Everything's built in within your own organization. So these are really easy to get off the ground. And then you can start with the minimum viable product, MVP, if you haven't heard of that. It's basically, what is the minimum I need to get this working? And then you build on it, right? You'll get feedback from your user base, and you'll be able to improve it over time. But do factor in that you do have to have the skills in-house to do this, and the time. So you really want to get people within the team, build up their skills. You could even get people within other teams, right? You don't have to be in IT to use Power Apps. You could get champions from different departments who might be interested, and have a working group, and you all work together to develop these apps. So do also think about governance. There is a whole section in Microsoft around how you can govern these, and if you want to have more automated release pipelines for your Power Apps, there is ways of doing that, and maybe these are something we can cover in future videos. But just to make you aware, all this stuff is there, so you can have enterprise processes governing Power Apps, right? And there's environments you can take into consideration and all this kind of thing. Okay, so HR forms, great ones, right? New starters, leavers, app permissions. So managing who has access to what apps and groups and all this kind of stuff, right? So you could keep a track of this. So you could have an access request portal, right, which says, oh, you want to manage your licenses carefully. So let's say you've got an expensive SaaS platform, but you want to manage licenses and you want to automate the process of requesting access. So you could have a form that has all your applications, and then reason why you need access, when do you need access, and if it needs approval, you can send that for an approval flow. How long do you need it? And then on an annual basis, you've got the data in a database. You can set up the Power flows, the Power Automate flows, to check that on an annual basis. And needs a refresh, can automatically send them an email saying, do you need this for another year? Yes, another automated flow, and then it to approve, and then it sort of self-governs through automated processes. So that's another great idea or use case of how to use it. Timesheets, so that's a biggie. You can request timesheets for all sorts of things, internal time, external time, and have these flows and great dashboards of how many approvals you have, numbers around who's taken what holidays, and then tracking of just that data within Power Apps and Power BI and other things. So timesheets is a great one. Desk booking, you could have a desk booking app to create spaces. Everyone's got flexi working now, mostly, so you might want to have a way of reserving desks or requesting desk space or that kind of stuff. Asset management, so you can scan barcodes, you can keep track of all your hardware, your desktops, all that kind of stuff. Requesting new hardware, booking systems, so let's say ordering systems, ordering new hardware, and you want to automatically do that through a mobile app or some browser interface. That's really good for Power Apps, where you can select, and then you've got loads of reporting. Like at the finance will love that, right? At the end of the year, how much have we spent on new desktops? Let's have a look at all the invoices and requisitions and compare that to sorry, let's look at the purchase requisitions, and then finance can compare that to the invoices they've got in. And that can all be automated, right? So using Power Apps. I mean, this is fantastic. Third-party suppliers, when you bring them on board, you don't want people just going off and signing agreements. You want to have a form. You want to have governance processes in. So let's say, if you want a third party, they have to fill in a form. And there's a lot of questions in there. What kind of data is it going to hold? Is it going to hold personal identifier PII data? Is it going to be, is GDPR going to apply? And you can work out all this stuff using your own algorithms in the background to say, this is going to require an assessment. This is a high risk vendor because of this kind of data and these business processes that we'll be outsourcing to them. So you can have all this logic in the back that based on whatever answers you get from the person submitting the request, it will come up with some sort of risk at the end of it, and then you can guide them to this is the next steps in the process, and it might be different for different third-party vendors. So that's another thing you could do. Simple things like a Kudos app. Let's say you wanted to have people to send thanks and recognition to other people. You could do that, and you can even build in a points-based system within Power Apps, and you could record the points which lead to vouchers, and then automatically once it counts up that many points, it sends them an email automation to receive a voucher. All this kind of thing. Really, really interesting stuff. Stand-up timer. Lots of people have stand-ups in the morning, technical teams specifically, where every person maybe gets a minute to speak. So you can build in a rota in there, send out automatic emails the day before reminding someone they're in charge of the stand-up, and who's speaking and how long they got to speak. So all this kind of clever stuff is optional to build into Power Apps. So I really hope I've given you guys some food for thought around what you can do and the innovations you can make and automations you can make within your business. So do drop your comments below. I'm interested to see what you guys are doing with Power Apps. What kind of apps are you building? What have you automated? What kudos have you got from your management for doing Power Apps? And also, what issues have you run into? I'd be keen to hear. Like, have you got some really negative stories about using Power Apps? What have you run into, some major blockers or issues? I'd be really interested to hear what those are. So drop those in the comment below. Do also think about costs, Dataverse versus SharePoint, Power BI. There are costs involved there. What else? With this kind of stuff as well, just remember you have to secure your data. So if your data's in SharePoint, don't forget you have to restrict access if you're using service accounts. You want people to have access to the apps, but not necessarily to all the data in the back end. So do familiarize yourselves with security, with whatever back end data storage system you're using, and make sure that it's kept secure. What else is there? I think that's it, guys and ladies. yeah, just don't forget to, as you develop, document your code within the Power Apps. So you can, if you've watched any of my videos, you'll see that I tend to document the code, or at least when I publish an app, and then yeah, you remember that you're also bound to Microsoft. So if you're developing all your systems within the Microsoft low code platform, you're pretty much stuck there, right? So take that into account. And maintenance, you have to manage the software, make sure that it's updated and all that kind of thing. So it's going to take resource, but great opportunity and great skills to learn. So I really hope you guys found this useful today. Don't forget, hit up the like button, please, if you found it valuable, and subscribe. It'd be great to have you on the channel, and I look forward to catching up with you all soon. Take care.